Welcome back to Inside the Messy Middle, a series from the inner game of change. If you have been following along, you know the rhythm by now. Episode 1 was about leading change you did not design. Episode 2 was about translating strategy before it fully makes sense. Today, I want to name something that happens in that space, and it happens more often than we admit. When human hesitation is misread as resistance. Let me slow this down. There is a moment many people in the middle recognize. You pause, you ask a question, you say, can we think that through? And something subtle shifts in the room. The pause is read as doubt. The question is heard as pushback. The slowing down is labeled as reluctance. But what if that hesitation is not resistance? What if it is care? In complex organizations, speed often gets confused with alignment. Movement feels strong. Certainty feels decisive. Momentum looks like leadership. But if you sit close to the work, you know something else. Consequences land in the middle first. So when someone slows down in that space, it is rarely random. It is pattern recognition. It is experience sensing fragility. It is judgment noticing that decisions travel. From a distance, slowing down can look inconvenient. Up close, it often looks responsible. Hesitation in this context is not weakness. It is a human response to complexity. It is what happens when someone understands that policies ripple, that systems have memory, that small design choices can create large downstream effects. And here's the quiet truth. In complex work, hesitation is often competence doing its job. There's a business example I often think about here. In the early days of Intel, the company was struggling in the memory chip market. Andy Grove later described a period of hesitation inside the leadership team. Do we persist or do we pivot? From the outside, that pause could have looked like uncertainty, maybe even lack of confidence. Inside the room, though, it was something else. It was strategic judgment recognizing reality before it was comfortable. That hesitation eventually led Intel to shift toward microprocessors, redefining the company's future. Sometimes hesitation is not resistance to ambition, it is clarity trying to surface. And this tension is not new. T.S. Eliot once wrote the line, "Do I dare?" It is such a simple question, but it captures something deeply human. That moment before action, that awareness of consequence, that internal check. Do I dare is not weakness. It is reflection meeting responsibility. In many organizations, that reflection happens in the middle. Here's the paradox, though. The very people relied upon to make change land safely are sometimes the ones labeled as slowing things down. When that label sticks, something changes. People shorten their questions, they soften their concerns, they comply faster than they think. Not because they agree, but because they do not want to be seen as resistant. And that is when organizations lose something important. They lose signal. They lose early warning. They lose the quiet judgment that lives close to the work. So it might be worth asking yourself a few questions. When someone slows down in your team, what are they protecting? When hesitation shows up in you, is it fear or is it experience asking for more information? And are we designing our systems in a way that distinguishes between avoidance and wisdom? Not all hesitation is helpful, I get that. But some of it is the very thing that keeps change from becoming damage. The messy middle is not just where change is implemented. It is where it is interpreted. It is where ambition meets reality. It is where judgment does its work quietly. When human hesitation is misread as resistance, we risk silencing the very competence we depend on. When it is recognized for what it is, something shifts. Dialogue deepens, design improves, and trust strengthens. In the next episode, I want to explore what happens when hesitation disappears altogether and what it means when the middle stops speaking. For now, if you recognize yourself here, let me say this. Your pause may not be weakness. It may be wisdom. And in the messy middle, wisdom is rarely loud, but it matters. Until next time.